Chapter 2: The Hanging Tree. The decade between 1850 and 1860 was one of the most violent in the nation's history, and California was no exception. San Luis Obispo in the 1850s was a haven for criminals and outlaws. Murderers and thieves roamed the typical frontier town, seemingly without consequence. Travelers through the area would sometimes disappear, their skeletons or bodies found later beside the desolate roads leading north and south. So disturbing were the stories of skeletons found tied to trees or skulls found split in two that many townspeople took to traveling by ship to get supplies from San Francisco, since those who traveled by land might not make it back alive. But San Luis Obispans got fed up with the lawlessness. They organized a vigilance committee in 1858, headed by Walter Murray. Over the next year, they executed many of the criminals who were victimizing the townspeople. In fact, during the first month, 6 alleged criminals had been hanged and 1 shot. Perhaps the most famous of these was a ruthless bandit called Jack Powers, the leader of a gang that bore his name. One of the gang's more brutal members, a fellow named Solomon Pico, was said to have made a necklace from which dangled the desiccated ears of the men he killed. A series of heinous murders during December of 1857 were attributed to the Powers gang, and an all-out effort was made to bring them to justice. In the end, about a dozen of the Powers gang was either hung or shot, including Powers' right-hand man, Pio Linares, who was killed in a shootout on the outskirts of town. Powers himself escaped to Mexico, where it is speculated that he was later killed by his own servant. In the space between the History Center and the Mission, imagine the hanging tree and scaffolding built just about where the crosswalk is today. Most hangings occurred in broad daylight in front of large crowds of townspeople, with many of the accused acknowledging their guilt as they mounted the scaffolding. At the time, this was the property of John Wilson, one of the largest landowners in the county, with holdings that included the Mission itself. There are stories about how Ramona Wilson and her children would watch the hangings from their home, which was where the History Center is today. Some say Ramona forced them to watch as a warning against bad behavior and poor life choices. Since most of the committee's victims were Hispanic, some have said that their actions were racially motivated. However, of the 148 men on the committee's membership roster, 62 were Hispanic. Researchers have found that in some cases local landowners were pressured into joining the committee out of a fear that they might be next. Nevertheless, the Vigilance Committee was so effective that it disbanded after only 1 year. If you're still facing the History Center, we'll turn right and cross Broad Street, then jog slightly to the right in order to walk straight ahead through the Mission Plaza. At the other side of the Mission, at Chorro Street, turn left and walk up 1 block to Palm Street, then turn left again on Palm in a loop around the Mission that will take you to the corner of Broad and Palm Streets. Here you can listen to the story of how the school you can see on the opposite corner here got started.